to the deep dive. If you're listening to this, you've probably felt that low hum of anxiety lately, that
Mhm.
fear of replacement. With these large generative models creating content, autonomous agents managing tasks, AI is just getting so much more capable every single day.
It is.
And the question for professionals everywhere is becoming, really critical. Can AI actually replace you?
It's the defining structural challenge of our time, I think, and it demands a much deeper look than what you get from the headlines.
Right.
So our mission today is to really examine the human moat, that complex, multi-layered defense that we have.
The human moat, I like that.
Yeah, it's our combination of physical skill, subjective consciousness, and, social accountability. All the things that historically protect our jobs.
We've done a deep dive into a stack of high-level research on this, and we are moving way beyond the simple will my job be replaced narrative. We're looking at where AI hits, like genuinely hard limits.
The real walls.
The real walls, the
Great.
physics, the philosophy, the pure economics of full automation.
We synthesized this into a multidimensional analysis, and we're going to walk you through the four main barriers that are standing in the way. We'll start with the economic architecture, then cross what we call the physical frontier.
Moravec's paradox.
Exactly. Before we tackle the massive scaling crisis and some of the metaphysical limits, and finally, the regulatory safeguards that are being built to keep humans in the loop.
Okay, let's unpack the economics first, because the scale of this change is just, it's undeniable.
It is.
Analysts are calling this the cognitive industrial revolution. We are looking at a structural shift with something like $4.4 trillion in added productivity.
That's right, just from corporate AI use cases.
That's not a small footnote. That is a fundamental reorganization of everything.
It's a massive opportunity for sure. But one of the most counterintuitive findings in our sources is the net effect on jobs.
Okay.
While the transition is going to be profoundly disruptive, the projections suggest that by 2030, while 85 million jobs might face displacement.
Which is a huge number.
A huge number.
Uh-huh.
But an estimated 97 million new roles are expected to emerge.
Wait, so a net positive gain of 12 million jobs. That sounds great. But, if you're a displaced accountant, are you realistically going to retrain as, a surgeon?
That's the perfect question asked.
Is that realistic, or is it just statistical optimism?
Well, the displacement causes what's known as frictional unemployment. It's temporary in theory, while the workforce tries to reskill and, realign.
So it's the painful gap in the middle.
It's the painful gap. Goldman Sachs research sees a potential temporary 0.5 percentage point increase in the U.S. unemployment rate during this phase. But if you look at history, these kinds of technological displacements, they tend to dissipate within about 2 years. The economy expands, it doesn't shrink.
And I think the most crucial insight here is that the risk of replacement, it's not about your education. It's not about what industry you're in. It's about the actual tasks you do.
Exactly, the task composition of your role. If your job involves a lot of routine work like generating summaries, processing data, standard clerical support, you fall into that high exposure category.
Meaning what, like 25 to 40% of your job is automatable?
Something like that.
Yeah.
This includes accountants, many legal assistants, even some programmers doing routine coding.
But then you look at the low exposure jobs, the resilient ones, less than 10% automatable. And that's where you find your traffic controllers, surgeons, clergy.
And your job is resilient, not because it's quote-unquote high-skilled, but because it demands judgment or physical presence or that kind of human-to-human empathy.
Right.
And this leads directly to this qualitative shift, this idea of super agency. AI isn't taking over the whole job. It's becoming a tool that kind of democratizes knowledge.
So just an assistant, a super assistant.
A super assistant. The sources note that in law, for example, AI can manage these massive record searches in seconds. That lets the lawyers spend almost all their time on strategy and courtroom presence, the high-value stuff.
So the AI isn't doing the lawyer's job. It's letting a mid-level professional perform analysis that used to be reserved for, like, a senior partner. It's augmenting their capacity.
Exactly. And that shift from doing a task to supervising a machine that does the task, that is the key takeaway for you, the listener.
Okay, this is where we move from the spreadsheet to the, let's say, the messy reality of the physical world. Why is it that an AI can solve a complex physics equation or pass the bar exam, but even the most advanced robots still struggle with, buttering a piece of toast without crushing it?
That is the perfect illustration of Moravec's paradox. It's this observation that high-level reasoning, the stuff we humans find really hard, actually requires pretty little computation for an AI.
Okay.
But the low-level stuff, the sensor motor and perception skills that feel effortless to us, demand these massive, massive computational resources.
And the evolutionary logic for why that's true is just, it's mind-blowing when you think about it. Abstract thought, math, language, all that. It's a very new trick for our species, less than 100,000 years old.
Our brains haven't fully optimized the architecture for it, so it feels like hard work.
Exactly.
But walking on two legs,
Rec-
recognizing a face, manipulating an object, those skills are the product of 1.5 billion years of relentless natural selection. They are so deeply integrated, so optimized, we don't even know how they work.
So we make the difficult look easy, and AI just completely flips that on its head.
It really does.
Yeah.
And you can quantify this gap. A cognitive task might need modest compute power. But real-time sensory-motor tasks in robotics, you're talking 1015 to 1018 FLOPS per second.
That's just an enormous number.
It's an enormous computational barrier just to get fluid physical movement.
And then there's the power consumption. The efficiency contrast is just staggering.
It is. The human brain operates on, what, roughly 30 watts of power? Less than an old light bulb.
Wow.
An equivalent AGI cluster trying to replicate that same level of physical fluidity needs about 70 gigawatts.
70 gigawatts. That's not even in the same ballpark.
It's several orders of magnitude different.
And then you've got the mechanics. I mean, think about the human hand. It has 27 degrees of freedom, these incredibly complex joints, tactile feedback. A cutting-edge robot gripper has, what, maybe 2 to 7?
Exactly. And that lack of sensitivity and complexity creates another huge physical moat. It ensures that roles requiring, general physical mobility in unpredictable environments, they remain highly resilient.
Construction workers, nurses, emergency responders.
Right. Their jobs might use AI for planning or supervising some subtask, but the core, energy-efficient, flexible human remains, for now, irreplaceable.
Okay, let's pivot to the major evolution we've seen recently, which is the rise of agentic AI.
Yeah.
This feels like the real game changer.
It is a huge step.
It's the shift from, a reactive tool that writes an email for you to a proactive virtual coworker that can actually plan and execute tasks across different software. It's a jump from system 1 to system 2 thinking.
This is where we see the great work reallocation really beginning. Gartner projects that 50% of enterprises will deploy these agents by 2027.
50.
They automate significant workflow, maybe up to 20% of marketing activities, or they could reduce HR costs by 15–20%. But the second AI moves from just thinking to actually doing, it hits these massive resource ceilings.
And that ceiling is compute power. I think one of the most surprising data points we pulled was the complete reversal in how resources are allocated.
Right.
Inference, the act of the model actually reasoning and giving you an answer, which agents do constantly, that now consumes 80 to 90% of all AI computing power.
It's a total flip. Training used to be the big cost. Now just using the AI is the massive expense, and this immense pressure creates two critical bottlenecks.
Okay, what's the first one?
The first is a data drought. AI systems are now ingesting data faster than humans can generate new, novel, high-quality information. And the proposed solution, using synthetic AI-generated data, carries this huge risk of model collapse.
Model collapse. For anyone who hasn't heard that term, what happens when a model starts sort of eating its own tail like that?
It's essentially cognitive inbreeding. The model learns from noisy, machine-generated output instead of rich, messy human data. And its performance, its quality, it just degrades rapidly.
So you need a human curator.
It's a permanent requirement. We're needed to annotate the edge cases, to provide that real-world validation, that ground truth that stops the whole system from just becoming noise.
And the second bottleneck, that ties back to physics, right? The energy ceiling.
Yes, and it's amplified by the Jevons paradox.
Which, for our listeners, is basically the idea that the better we get at using a resource efficiently, the more of it we end up demanding in total.
Precisely. As AI chips get faster, the demand for computation skyrockets. AI inference is projected to consume between 165 and 326 terawatt-hours annually by 2028.
Just to put that in perspective, that's like powering 22% of all U.S. households.
It is an incredible amount of power.
So tech giants aren't just renting cloud space anymore. They're investing billions in dedicated nuclear power plants.
In sovereign infrastructure, that cost, that power requirement, the environmental footprint, it creates another deep, deep resource moat. And if we connect all this to the bigger picture, beyond economics and physics, we get to the question of what makes human experience truly irreplaceable.
Right.
And it forces us to distinguish between intelligence, which is just the ability to solve problems, and consciousness, that subjective experience of what it's like to be something. AI systems are internally completely dark.
This gets us right into philosophy and David Chalmers' hard problem. When we say an AI is internally dark, what does that actually mean for the listener? Does it mean it can't feel pain or that it can't authentically understand the story it just wrote?
It means the latter. An AI operates purely on statistical patterns. It could, in theory, pass every single behavioral test of humanity. It could convince you it's sentient.
While being what philosophers call a philosophical zombie.
Exactly. Solving problems without any inner life, any subjective, I think, therefore I am.
And that lack of subjective experience leads to another gap, right? The one illustrated by Searle's Chinese room argument.
Yes. AI can manipulate symbols. It masters the syntax of language perfectly. But it lacks genuine understanding or intentionality. It doesn't know what the words are about.
And that intentionality is critical in, say, creative fields.
Absolutely. A UN report really underscores this. It emphasizes that human expression involves conscious, emotional engagement, lived experience. AI content, by contrast, is just a mathematical byproduct. It lacks lived context. It lacks authenticity.
And where that philosophy meets reality, we find the regulatory barrier. The EU AI Act from 2024 is the world's first big legal framework designed specifically to keep humans in control.
It uses a rigid risk-based approach. Systems that are deemed unacceptable risk, like social scoring, are just prohibited outright. But for high-risk systems, and this is everything from surgery robots to CV screening software, there is a strict legal requirement for mandatory human oversight.
It cements the human in the loop.
It does. It ensures humans are the ultimate legal and moral authorities. It reinforces that the critical job is judgment.
And we saw the risk of over-reliance on this play out so dramatically in that ChatGPT case, the Maravilla case. A lawyer was sanctioned because he submitted a legal brief filled with non-existent, completely AI-fabricated citations.
And the court's takeaway was crystal clear. Over-reliance on AI is inconsistent with the active practice of law.
So the ultimate replacement question, it always seems to hinge on AGI, on artificial general intelligence. And our sources note that expert expectations here have just accelerated dramatically.
They really have.
People who once predicted AGI was 10 to 100 years away are now talking about 2 to 5 years. Leaders like Sam Altman, Demis Hassabis, they're projecting arrival by 2030.
That acceleration is fueled by the success of these large-scale models.
Yeah.
It's led optimists to believe that just scaling up compute and data is enough to get to human-level intelligence. They see the current limits as engineering problems, not fundamental roadblocks.
But the skeptics, they have a powerful counterpoint. People like Medez Jan LeCun argue that today's LLMs are fundamentally limited. They lack the ability to process that rich, continuous stream of visual data to build world models, like even a 4-year-old child can.
To put it simply, an LLM knows what words predict other words,
Yeah.
but it doesn't know that if you drop a cup, it will smash.
Right. It has no common sense, physics.
No true spatial awareness. That lack of world modeling is, for the skeptics, the current high watermark.
So what does this all mean for you, the listener, trying to navigate today? Is replacement 2 years away or 2 decades?
The body of evidence we reviewed really says you need to stop thinking about replacement entirely. The future isn't AI versus humans.
Right.
It's defined by extreme specialization and augmentation. It's leading not to some mechanized dystopia, but to what the sources call a hybrid civilization.
So machines get better at reasoning and data synthesis.
While the human job becomes the job of being human, focusing on judgment, creativity, ethical decision-making, and navigating the complex art of human relationships, that's the frontier where AI really can't follow.
So let's just synthesize this. The 3 primary pillars of this human moat protecting your role right now. First, you have the physical moat from Moravec's paradox.
And the complexity of physical labor.
Second, the metaphysical moat. That's your unique consciousness and the demand for authenticity.
And finally, the regulatory moat, enforced by global laws that demand human oversight for any high-stakes decision.
It all seems to come back to efficiency in a way. The human brain runs on about 30 watts.
Compared to the massive multi-gigawatt power demands of AGI clusters that are driving tech giants to build their own power infrastructure. So here's a final thought for you to explore on your own. Given the growing climate crisis and the massive computational costs of scaling AI, how long will the sheer energy efficiency of the human brain remain the most powerful, persistent resource moat against full automation?